Good afternoon. It's Chris Hale again coming to you live from Chicago. And my topic for discussion today is why letting go is so difficult. And I want to offer some practical suggestions at the end for how I've been able to help myself and how others have been successful in letting go of traumatic past. So, really, why is letting go so difficult? It's difficult because, first of all, it requires deep self awareness and it requires willpower and then repeated practice. And if you've been a person that was raised in a high control religious cult like me, like for example the Jehovah's Witnesses, becoming deeply self aware is not encouraged because that means you're a thinking person and you're going to be less likely to be mind controlled or susceptible to mind control. Or even if you're in a situation where you're in a domestic violence situation or where you're in an abusive marriage, having willpower to step out into the unknown is something that a lot of people don't have, or at least they think they don't have it. But really, we do have great amounts of power within ourselves. So, take for example my situation and the situation of countless hundreds of thousands leaving a cult. The Jehovah's Witnesses are a very strong mind control cult, and when you when your beliefs are no longer aligned with their beliefs, or when you find that their beliefs are flat out lies built on deceit, then you are what we call out of alignment. So you are out of alignment with what? Well, really, you're yourself. You are out of alignment with who you are and who you may want to be or who you think you are. So, really, in a situation like this, you have to do something. You have to move forward or you have to stay stagnant. And when moving forward is the only option, the change work required, the work required to make change is really hard. And what makes it hard? Fear. Fear makes it hard. Fear makes it almost impossible for some. If you think about, again, the Jehovah's Witness religion, if you've been disfellowshipped or shunned or disassociated or whatever the case may be, you have to do something. You have to either find a way to move forward or you have to go back. And fear, the fear of moving forward, the fear of all that entails, causes a lot of people to go back. Dr. Heidi Halverson said, fear of change can be the real reasons why we haven't tried something new. So the fear of change can be the real reasons why we haven't tried something new. Fear causes us to dwell in the past. Holding on to the familiar is more comfortable than stepping into the unknown. Now think about that. Fear holds us back. How many times has fear held you back? How many times have you been in a grocery store as a single man or single woman? You saw someone with a kid or two kids and they were handling the kids nice, they look good, pretty girl, pretty guy, nice looking man, or whatever the case may be, and you were so scared to talk to them that opportunity passed you by. Fear of the unknown, fear of potential rejection. Yeah, they may say, hey, I'm already married, or no, I don't like girls, or I don't like guys, or no, go away, but you'll never get an opportunity until you seize the day and put fear aside. So someone said that change happens when the pain of the current situation becomes greater than the fear itself. So think about that. The pain of the current situation becomes greater than the fear itself. I'll go back to my example of being a Jehovah's Witness because when I was expelled or disfellowshipped, it was a very lonely time in my life. I didn't know how to make friends outside of people who believe and look, dress, and act like me. I didn't know how to communicate with people except for those who really looked, act, and dressed like me. So I began to live a very selfish and very lonely life. And so at one point in time, I just said, you know what? This is ridiculous. This is absolutely insane. I'm in the city and I have nobody to talk to, no one to confide in. The pain that I'm in of the current situation got to be so great that I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And so I took some action. And I talk about this in my book. I stepped out and met a guy. He turned out to be a pastor, not my type, but we had some great conversations. And I was able to really grow a little bit, actually quite a bit from my interactions with him. So change happens when the pain of the current situation becomes greater than the fear itself. So again, letting go can be difficult. Letting go of people that are toxic, maybe the people that really don't do you any good. They're not bringing anything positive to you. Maybe they're just drama-ridden people all the time. Letting go to those people can be difficult because they come back to you, they burden you down, and it's comfortable. You know what their story is, you know how to talk to them, and chances are they're not making any progress. Letting go can be difficult for ideas. Maybe you're a businessman and you had a great idea that nobody wants to buy, no one wants to fund, but it's a great idea. It's fantastic. It's your brainchild. Letting go of an idea that nobody wants to invest in or that's not going to go anywhere can be difficult. That's fear. Letting go can be difficult even of expectations. What you expect of your new wife, what do you expect of your new girlfriend or the husband or your friends or this new religion or the job. Expectations can always lead you to be disappointed. Letting go of those expectations can be difficult. And when it is, that's fear talking. Letting go can be difficult for false beliefs and, like I said, unhealthy relationships. Going back to my days of being a Jehovah's Witness, it was very difficult for me to realize that all my life I had been taught things that were just flat out lies. And for me to let go of those beliefs meant that I would be left with nothing. And there'd be nothing inside of me that I didn't know what I would believe. And that basis for that was fear. And so letting go of that fear and letting go of false beliefs can be difficult, but it's fear talking when you can't do it. So then what's the opportunity for us? If we're able to get past all these things, if we're able to let go and manage fear, what's the opportunity? The opportunity is this, that every day presents an opportunity to create ourselves anew. So when you wake up in the morning, you control your mind and say, this day I can create something new. I don't like the job I have. I don't like the way my body looks. I don't like the way I feel every day. You have an opportunity from moment to moment to tell yourself, I'm going to change this. I'm going to do something new, different. I'm going to create my life anew. Not going to happen overnight, of course, but there are actions you can take. But it starts here saying, this moment, this day, I'm going to do things to make my life anew. So we all have the power. We have the power to let go. We have the power to change. We have willpower. You just got to find it. Again, think about that. We all have the power to change. We all have the power to will ourselves to do something different, and we all have the power to let go. We have the power to say, you know what? I'm not going to deal with you, Mr. X or Mrs. X, anymore because of what you bring to me is not positive. It's so easy. Just don't answer the phone. Delete their phone number and just take that action to remove them from your life. Now, fear is going to make you say, well, what am I going to do without them? What am I going to do without them? What are you going to do with them? What are you not going to do with them in your life or with that situation in your life? So again, fear keeps you from moving forward. So what do you need to do right this moment? You need to take action right this moment to create the future that you want. So here's some ideas I have put together just from reading. I do a lot of reading, and I'm going to give you 5 of these, and I'm going to come back in another day and time and give you 5 more because it's quite a bit. The first idea I have, for my research, is meditation, finding stillness. Like coming from the Jehovah's Witness background, meditating on anything else but the stuff they give you was highly discouraged against. But really, in reality, that's the worst thing for you because you can't listen to your own thoughts. You can't hear what Christopher is telling you. You can't hear what your inner voice is saying. Our mind is powerful beyond anything that we can imagine. And I read a lot of books about the universe and about energy, and you cannot tell me with all the expanding universes out there that our bodies being energy, there's not some sort of connection between us and the vast neural networks that exist in the universe. So meditate, find stillness, still your mind. Turn off the radio, turn off the TV, put the kids out in the backyard, time up the post, whatever, get rid of the dog, turn off the TV, everything. Sit in a dark room and let your mind be still. And when you do that, still your mind, clarity comes from quiet. Let that sink in. Clarity comes from quiet. Now, I will warn you, sometimes your thoughts may persecute you, and they may not be pleasant, but you have to go through that in order to get to clarity. So the second thing I want to talk about is understanding. It's important for you to understand and reflect on your own history without judging. Don't think about all the bad things you did, the girl you shouldn't have slept with, or maybe the man's wife you were trying to holler at. Don't think about those things, but think about them without judging them. And recall and remember that you are not your past and you're not your past circumstances, but you need to understand your patterns. This will help you understand why you do what you do. I mean, I went through that. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and spill out all my problems, but I had a few things that I do and that did, and that were painful to me and to people around me. And so once I started understanding those things and coming to grips with, man, these things are just, don't do that's wrong, I started to understand why I did what I did. And so once I do that, once I started understanding, I started to gain awareness, and awareness helps you break the cycle of negativity. Okay, so again, understanding your past, understanding your history, understanding why you do the things you do will help you to create awareness, which helps you to break the cycle of bad stuff. The third thing I wanted to kind of mention was the idea of acceptance. Accepting your history, accepting the people that have been a part of your history, accepting the things that you have done in your history, and realize that you are not your circumstances. And your circumstances and your past did not necessarily identify you, but acceptance is critical. It's the first step in letting go and setting yourself free. Carrying bitterness around, anger, or animosity burdens no one but yourself. I'll give you an example. Again, going back to growing up a Jehovah's Witness, I had lots of friends, pseudo friends. And what I learned was I realized a lot of those friends were not very genuine at all. They were associating with me because maybe I had a certain position in the congregation or part of a prominent family, but they weren't my friends out of a genuine desire to be my friend. And so what that taught me was nowadays I can spot a genuine person in a heartbeat. I can also spot fakery without having to think too hard about it. And so what I've done is, I don't pull or push people towards me, but I attract them. I attract them by my personality, by my happy demeanor, by the fact that I'm not angry anymore, I'm not bitter, I'm not carrying around animosity. So you have to accept who you are, accept your history, grow from that, and then once you start doing that, you will attract the kind of people that you want to be around you. And that's what I started to find out. So I'm okay now, and settling those things up was good in helping me to identify who I was and to let go of the things that affected me most in a bad way and attract a lot of good stuff in this time. So the fourth thing I want to talk about is something called emptying your cup. And what I mean by that is turn that cup over, dump out your story, get rid of your story. It's not your story anymore. The judgments and the ideals that go along with your past and your story are just not important. They really have no value. They make you weak. They don't make you stronger. So pour out the expectations of how and who and what you think you should be. This too is a delusion. It holds you back from simply being. So again, I can go back to my story of being a Jehovah's Witness, right? So when I was disfellowship, how painful was it, right? My mom, my dad, my son, my two sons wouldn't talk to me, and I'd be in Columbus walking around the streets, and people just walk right by me. I'm like, are you for real? Did you just walk by me? Am I not a human being? What's wrong with you crazy people? That kind of stuff right there was my story. And so my story was ingrained here. It was here. It was in my heart. It ran through every fiber of my body, and it wore me down. It was in my eyes. It just was everywhere. It was my person. That was me, my story, that negative story. So when I talk to people, it didn't take long for me to tell that story, and it was just extremely negative, and I just couldn't see anything positive in life at all. So once I was able to pour that story out and get rid of it, stop telling it, and start creating a new story, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. When I poured that story out, trashed it. It's like carrying around imagine carrying around a cup full of cow shit, right? It stinks. And everybody you walk by when you're carrying out that cup of shit, they're repelled by your smell, all right? They're not even getting to know you because what's coming at them first is this cup of cow shit, and it stinks. So right away they stay far away from you. They don't make the effort to get to know you. It's the same analogy, right? It's the same thing. When you walk around with a story of just utter negativity, and maybe you have good reason for it. You did have a hard life, or some things really did go bad for you. But when you walk around with that, it does not allow people to get to know the great you that's in there. So pour that story out, work at doing that, work at creating a new story, so when you walk down the street, people are attracted to you, the energy that you have, the vitality that you have, and then when they get to know you, they're just blown away by who you've become. So once you trash your story, once you turn that cup upside down and dump that story out, your life purpose will open up and flow, right? So on to the last and final thing I meant earlier. I mentioned that when we are forced to abandon what we know to be false, like, for example, growing up in a church that now we know teaches complete lies, that we are now out of alignment. So my fifth suggestion is 3 things that can help you get back into alignment with who you are and who you want to be or who you should be. So do these things. First, write down your core beliefs and values. growing up a Jehovah's Witness or in any kind of high control religious cult, you may not have, or you may not even know what your core beliefs and values are. So don't recite what their core beliefs and values are, but understand what your own are. And then number 2 is sit down, write down your life goals. Okay, so you're out of the church, or you're out of the abusive relationship, or you're single now, or you're unemployed, and maybe that's a good thing. So now you have an opportunity to say, what are my life goals? Do I want to go back and do the same thing, experience the same thing, or do I want to create something new? What do I want to be or do? How do I want to affect, more importantly, how do I want to affect the lives of people around me? And then third, write down the actions that you are taking to support those goals and those core beliefs. Then take a hard look at your core beliefs, and then honestly ask yourself, do the things I do my actions, my daily actions, the things I do every day, do they really line up and support my core beliefs? Very interesting. Especially so if you've been in a situation maybe since your whole life or your young life where you never had experienced certain institutions like maybe college or traveling the world or going to the military, and so you were not able to develop your core beliefs based on experience or your values based on experience they were given to you by someone else. Say for example, someone who gets married at a very young age, 18 or 19, what do they know about anything really? And so their core beliefs and their values may be structured by their experiences in maybe a bad marriage, and it could have a bad effect on them for the rest of their lives. So take a look at those core beliefs after you've written them down, and look at your actions. Hold on. And then try to understand if the actions support those core beliefs. If they don't, then it's time to create some new core beliefs and some new actions to support those. So here's a task for you guys this week. Write down your 3 actions that you will take this week to get yourself started in the act of letting go. So with that being said, I'm going to let you go and think about what was said here. And I hope you guys have a great evening, and I'll see you again soon.